Welcome back to the nationally syndicated Price of Business show. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Always love having on the program, Chris Rodgers, and the work he does is just really very interesting and so important and really more relevant now than ever. There's so much conversation out there about AI, and this is going to have and is currently having a profound effect on SEO. And there's nothing more dynamic than technology. The only constant in technology is change. And those changes have a profound impact on how our content is found. So I love talking to you, Chris Rodgers. Real quickly, a little bit about your company. You guys have been doing this for a long time, and you have an experienced-rich team. And also give your best website.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Chris Rodgers. I'm the CEO and founder of CSP, formerly Colorado SEO Pros. Our website is csp.agency. And we are a specialized SEO agency taking a business-centric approach to our clients. We've been in business here. We're now in our 12th year of business. We have generated over $100 million in organic revenue for our clients, and have a small but mighty SEO team with over 100 years of combined experience.
Love it. Just jump right into our topic today, because I think this is extremely important. I love the way you worded it, the arms race between these AI companies. And I watch it closely. For someone who's not in the industry, I kind of geek out by what's happening, and there's a lot going on. And, in my own personal experience, I first got turned on to ChatGPT. I loved it, but boy, I got really exhausted by the way, this is last updated 5 months ago or 8 months ago. You might want to check to see whether or not it's still accurate. Yeah, that's old. That gets tiring really quick. But that's all changed. You're going to talk a little bit about that. I found myself, because of that, going over to Gemini, which is Google's project. And, man, I found it really great and exciting. But if it was even slightly controversial, it gave me nothing. We're still learning how to answer that. That became another form of frustration, and so they're going back and forth. They're going back and forth and trying to figure out how to navigate it. I'm now spending more time at ChatGPT.
Yeah, we do have what I would call as an AI arms race between OpenAI and Google. It started when OpenAI rolled out ChatGPT. That prompted Google to release Bard, which is their chatbot. They've now since renamed that Gemini after a newer model that they released. And we've also got Bing over there with Bing's Copilot. They have a partnership with OpenAI. So, just recently here we have OpenAI that released the next version of ChatGPT, the 4.0. The O is for Omni. So it is really able to work through various mediums, similar to what Gemini is doing. So being able to look at different languages, look at different formats like code, looking at video and audio, those types of things. Google also just had their developer conference called Google I/O, and Google just released AI overviews. Formerly search generative experience, but these kind of AI answers that are now being generated above search results. And then they've got a lot of other search technologies and features that are going to be coming out into search. There's a big mobile tie-in. We've got Apple that has now penned a deal with OpenAI. So I think we're likely to see Siri and ChatGPT integrated, and Google is leaning heavily into Android and looking at integrating Gemini into all our Android devices. So there's a tremendous amount of movement right now and changes that are coming down the pipeline. And certainly from a business perspective, if you're out there navigating what you're doing for marketing and SEO. These things are top of mind in terms of the direction that you're going, what you need to do, et cetera. So it's a lot of the where I spend my time is learning about these technologies, understanding where we need to go as a company to ensure the services that we're providing continue to get our clients in front of their customers to help drive their businesses forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So I talked about a couple of things that were pet peeves, I guess you'd say, when it came to the companies, with Gemini being so politically correct, if you will, or trying to avoid not being politically correct. They have got to be getting pressure when it comes to that. Have you seen anything on that?
There have been some issues. There was an issue where at one point when they were using their generative image creation, there was some kind of bug because they were trying to integrate some different DEI practices, and it would not create the image of a white person. So there were all these examples of African American Nazis and World War II people that were of different ethnicities, but not white people. So they have had some stumbles. They've kind of admitted those faults, and they are trying to take things in the right direction. And quite frankly, they've got plenty of technology challenges and business challenges outside of that aspect.
Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that, Gemini's big advantage, of course, is that it's powered by Google search engine, which is by far the most powerful and most up-to-date of the search engines. That was ChatGPT's problem, limping along a little bit because they didn't have that capacity for instant updates. And from what I can tell, they still don't. I notice now they say, if it's real current, they say this was updated in May of 2024. However, things could have happened since that update. So even with that kind of currency, that to me is going to always be the politically correct. This is going to be a Achilles heel for Gemini, and it seems to me, unless they have instant updates like Gemini, that's going to be the problems for ChatGPT.
Certainly those types of things are going to have an impact on audiences and who chooses to use different platforms, right? But what I can tell you is that ChatGPT, from my experience, and the new version hasn't been out very long, but I've been doing as much testing as I can, and they've got a lot of work to do in order to be able to compete as a search engine. So Google's been working on search for, decades in terms of being able to identify and raise credible companies and websites to the top. And they've certainly had their struggles, and they've got struggles right now. But some of the testing I've done on ChatGPT, they're accessing Bing's search engine, right, for some of that data so they can get up-to-date data, which is fantastic. But when I look at the sources that they're citing in some cases, they're not credible sources, right? Mm-hmm. So it tells me that they haven't cracked the code in terms of being able to identify what is a reputable source versus what is not, right? And I think it's going to take some time for them to do that. Google has more experience in that, but Google is now, I feel like trying to play catch up when it comes to the chat experience, right? So they're on one end, they're following in terms of that chat experience with Gemini, I think in a big way. And then when it comes to search, I think, ChatGPT is trying to find a way to catch up and, kind of push the, 10,000 pound gorilla out of the way, or at least put a dent in some of that market share.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, actually. One had one leg up in one area, the other one had a leg up in the other area. And frankly, from a novel perspective, ChatGPT has certainly captured the imagination more. I think a lot of us who consume this type of thing. And again, I don't do this professionally. Mainly how I use it is to work on a wording of something, or to get outlines for larger writings we're doing, or a great use is grammar check. Sometimes after a lot of writing, I get tired. Both of them are very good at it, though. I don't, but I think that when it comes from the novel factor, ChatGPT still has the edge. I'm curious, how do they update themselves? Because again, Gemini has the luxury of Google. How does ChatGPT update itself?
Well, it's accessing Bing, and it depends on what you ask it and what the queries look like. Some of the searches that I've done, I've tried to replicate searches that you would do in Google in ChatGPT. It's going to be more conversational. You're building more information and more detail in there, as you can do now with Gemini. So this is a trend across both of these platforms. But what I'm seeing is that sometimes they're citing sources, and it'll say once you enter, searching through Bing, right? And so it'll actually give that annotation, and then I would see citations next to some of these factors, right? I have another instance where the citations are not listed, and I dug a little bit deeper after I got those results and said, how did you come up with these results? And what I found is, I think I looked at, one of the examples was like top deck refinishers and stainers, something like that, right? We've got to get our deck redone. And I wanted to see what it came back with, and it came back with 3 companies, but there were no citations. So then I'm wondering, okay, well, how did ChatGPT decide that this was valid? Well, one thing that I noticed is when I did my search, it added the words in 2024 to my query, even though I had not done it. So that told me that there's a trigger point when you say in 2024 that they automatically added, that I think was a trigger for it to then go into more of a live database, more of like Bing's index, right? But what I found is that without the citations, what it was really doing was looking at the individual websites. So it said it was looking at their testimonials or case studies, right? And it's looking at what they say on the websites about themselves, right?
Yeah.
These were long-standing companies, okay? So that's a credibility factor. But if they're looking at what sites are saying about themselves and not going deeper beyond that, it's not enough, right? It's not enough today, because I think there have to be much more. I think there have to be deeper factors in what's being recommended, which traditionally Google has been able to do, and it looks at a lot of different factors. But ultimately they're going to improve. They're going to keep improving it, and so will Google on their end. And a big part of this is going to be, what does the adoption look like? And they're going to be pushing that adoption.
Yeah.
So if you've got OpenAI, if ChatGPT is built into Siri, and we have that running, and then we've got on the Android phones, we've got if we've got Android phones pushing Google, I'm already seeing, if you have an Android phone, one thing that people have been telling me, I'm on iPhone, is that they're already getting prompted to use Gemini, right? So they're already starting to push that out. And by and large, across the globe, we've mostly got 2 operating systems for phones, right? We've got Mac, and we've got Google.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And people think, oh, well, there'll always be competition. Really? Just look at searches in general. 75% plus are still done on exclusively on Google. And so there's a very strong possibility that one could become the dominant player. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, look, ultimately competition is a good thing.
Always.
Right? And so when you've got companies competing to try to build a better mousetrap, I think that's good for the consumer. So ultimately, what we need to be looking at as people in business is, how do we stay up to date with these changes? How do we ensure that we are in the places that people are looking? and that we're using this technology to, progress our businesses forward.
Very good. Always enjoy my chats with you. Chris Rodgers, again, that website one more time as we wrap it up.
CSP.agency.
Check him out. Check out his work. And great conversation. I'm looking forward to future updates because it's such a dynamic space. I am Kevin Price. This is The Price of Business. Stay tuned for more.